All right, so it's 7 o'clock. I guess we'll. Jana, did anybody else say they weren't coming?
Just Jim and George.
So Todd's missing in action?
Yes.
Okay, well, why don't we give him a minute to see if he logs in? He may be traveling.
For what it's worth, Jana, I didn't see your face this time.
Oh, I know. I'm trying to save you guys.
Oh, how considerate of you, Jana.
I know. I'm that type of person.
Of course, in all fairness, I didn't see Brian either, but he always appears.
He jumps in and out.
I think we ought to go ahead and get started. I mean, this isn't the most contentious issue.
That's true, but Todd seemed more interested in this than anybody else, but we'll go ahead and get started. So let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Jana, can I get a roll call, please?
Cynthia Bucco.
Present.
Todd Adder. George Flynn. Greg Kessler.
Present.
And Jeffrey Reichman.
Here.
Okay. Well, I guess we know who will be first and seconding the various items on the agenda. How about an approval of the agenda?
I'm happy to make an approval of tonight's agenda, or make a motion for approval.
And I'll second that.
Greg.
Yes.
Jeff.
Yes.
Cynthia.
Yes. How about a motion to approve the minutes? Or are there any issues with the minutes from last meeting? First of all,
I had none.
No, it was just the continuance. So
can I get a motion to approve the minutes from the April 21st meeting then, please?
I will make a motion to approve the minutes of last month's April 21st, 2021 meeting.
And I'll second that.
Mr. Reichman.
Yes.
Ms. Bucco.
Yes.
Mr. Kessler.
Yes.
Before we go on, I just got a text from Todd saying, can you send me the link with the call-in number? I cannot access. So Rob, if you could send that to him again. I don't know why people either didn't have it or couldn't access, but we might get a fourth in here if
That'll be exciting.
it does to me. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So did we finish the approval of the minutes? I apologize.
Yes.
Yes.
Todd distracted me. Okay. So at this point, we're going to continue the public hearing for Symmes number 99-25, the Harper Station ATM final development plan modification, which is a continuance from our last meeting. Brian, at least in my packet, there were no comments on the submitted plans from you. Did you review them? Do you have anything you want to share with the committee?
Sure, yes. I'll briefly go through the case again, just in case Todd makes it. Let's see. Sorry, let me figure out how to share my screen again. Okay. All right. So again, this is the location. This is case Symmes 99-2. It's a public hearing. It was continued in progress last month to tonight's meeting for a final development plan modification to allow a standalone ATM to be constructed in this portion of the existing Harper's Station parking lot. So we had some pictures. There was an ATM in this location before. Here's the picture of that. That's in your staff report. And then this is what it looks like currently looking in from Montgomery Road, the Montgomery Road entrance. The ATM would be located here as opposed to its former location here. As we discussed last month, they don't have the required stacking spaces. It didn't sound like the board had much issue with the location of the ATM or the modification of the stacking spaces last month. The discussion was about signage. As I stated last month, we typically see ATMs come in with this type of signage, just a generic ATM. We don't consider that to be building signage or advertising signage. It's more of a exempt directional sign, and that's typically what we see. The discussion that we had last month was about the signage being proposed for the new ATM here, and we did not have any details on that, so that was the reason for the continuance. As you stated, Mr. Chairman, we did get revised elevations from the applicant showing the signage and have with all the details on the sizes and locations. So what we have, and I'm trying to find if there's a good graphic of it, because I saw one, but I don't think it's in this packet that I have open here, where it shows the, sorry, mouse really goes very fast. I don't see it. Okay. Well, essentially what we have is there's this ATM machine that goes here, a standard standalone ATM machine like you would see in a convenience store. It's located here, and they built a structure around it that basically provides some cover to both the ATM machine and the person pulling up to the ATM machine, which is this. So there's two supports and a roof structure that's being proposed. On the structure, there would be a roof sign because this is the Chase Bank logo, and it would be mounted sticking off the roof of the structure, which we discussed last month. Roof signs are prohibited. And then we've got the sign on the side, just the one as you would be pulling in, not the one as you would be exiting when you leave the ATM, but the one where you're pulling in has the Chase logo and the Chase sign. So what we have is a 4 square foot, basically a 2 foot by 2 foot roof sign, so 4 square foot roof sign. This logo is roughly 1 by 1, so 1 square foot. And then this Chase sign here would be 4.3 square feet, so you've got 9.3 square feet of total signage, which is very low. There is no permitted signage on this ATM. The zoning resolution considers standalone ATMs to be an accessory structure, and signage is not permitted on accessory structures. So any type of signage that includes the bank or anything other than basically ATM would require a variance and then an additional variance for the roof sign. So it was pretty straightforward. I didn't put together a revised staff report for that. I figured we'd go over the numbers and discuss the variances at the meeting. So that's all I have. Madam Chairman, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
That's fine. I think you've gone through. I see Todd's joined us. Looks like he's sitting in a car somewhere.
Yep.
Well,
Perfect. I took just long enough.
I do have one question. I know you mentioned last month that roof signs are not permitted. But honestly, if all it says on the structure is ATM, how do I know if it's a Fifth Third or a Chase or whoever?
Typically, the ATM is on or near the bank that it's associated with. So we don't really run into situations where people have standalone ATMs where they need their logo on them because they're usually in the parking lot or very close to the parking lot for the actual bank branch. In this case, there is no Chase Bank branch in this plaza, which I assume is the reason they want to put their name on the ATM machine.
Okay. Do other members of the committee have questions?
I do have a question, and it's not really related to the signage, but it's related to the overall location of the ATM. And that is, a couple of years ago, we had approved a electric vehicle charging station, which is up in the top right corner. There you go. And so will this, and I noticed that the way that this ATM is anticipated working is that the egress of, from the ATM will be directionally towards that charging station. And so is there any concern, although I must say, in all the times that I go over to that shopping center, I've never seen anyone actually using the charging station. But that notwithstanding, is there any concern about cars congregating in the same place?
No, to exit this, they would have to drive across these 3 aisles of parking spaces to get to the electric vehicle charging station. So, I mean, they're going to come out and they're going to go left or they're going to go right. And this still hasn't been changed, was not changed by the electric vehicle charging station, which is accessed from this aisle. So no, the circulation wouldn't be impacted by either the ATM or the electric vehicle charging. There certainly wouldn't be any conflict between the two.
Okay. Thank you.
Brian, I have a couple questions. With respect to the rooftop signage, are you aware of any exceptions for that in Symmes Township?
No, but I didn't research roof signs. I mean, it's usually something strange, like I don't know, like a chicken on top of a chicken place, like something along those lines. Or a structure that has like a mansard roof where they want to add a sign to the front of the mansard roof, something like that. I can't say that I've seen a pop up like kind of this kind of sign anywhere else in Symmes Township, but this is an ATM machine and it's 4 square feet, so I don't know.
Well, a similar question with respect to the signage or the advertising on an ATM. I'm not a big frequenter of them, but are you aware of any ATMs, again, in Symmes Township that have advertising or signage on them other than ATM?
I'm not, no, but I'm also, again, I don't know how actually research. Like I said to earlier, I don't think there are a lot of these that are standalone on lots where there isn't an actual bank. So like I said, I've not seen this before. I had to research it with staff and talk to some people who have been permitting at the county for a very long time to see how they deal that. We have no notes on this kind of thing. We don't deal with this a lot. So this is fairly unique. And I would guess that there's not another one in Symmes Township.
Okay, thank you.
And Brian, this is Jeff again. One further question on the signage. If we were to approve the advertising signage, would we be able to restrict that advertising signage specifically to the bank for which the ATM is involved? And they couldn't sublet the signage to Brian's Chicken Shack?
No, it would have to advertise the bank that's using the ATM. We couldn't say just Chase Bank. If Chase changed names or sold, or they sold rights to the ATM to a different bank, they could change the sign, provided that you can restrict them to the size that they're showing here. But no, they wouldn't be able to use it for, I don't know, like Donato's or something else. No, it would have to be the bank using the ATM.
Okay. I don't have any problem with that.
Todd, any questions?
Do we have to approve both of them, or can we approve one?
You can approve whatever you want.
Okay.
And all of it is part of the request, so you can pick and choose whichever part of it you want to, or approve all or none of it.
Okay. I see that Aaron's here on behalf of the requester. Aaron, did you want to speak to the committee?
I think Brian kind of summarized it pretty concisely there. I do have some examples of like a color picture at other locations throughout the country if you guys want to see what it looks like in color as opposed to the black and white images that Brian was showing.
That'd be fabulous.
Okay. See if I can figure out sharing my screen. So oh, nope, not that's there. That should be good. So like Brian said, it's a little unique because a lot of times these do end up right next to the building which the bank branch is in. So you can see in this case, it's right next to the building, but it's the same exact structure. ATM machine here, and then the Chase logo on the side and on the roof. Just another, see if I can get to zoom.
Aaron, do you have any of these specific designs in the Cincinnati area?
I think this is the first one in the Cincinnati area. They have been kind of popping up all over the place. Chase is trying to expand to this type of market, given a lot of people are using ATMs and driving up to them and prefer to
Am I,
have their car.
am I looking at this one correctly? It does not have a rooftop sign?
This one does not have the rooftop sign. This is their, and you can see here, there's a little difference in the ATM structure itself. And then, again, this one's similar, but not the exact one. This one, again, has the rooftop, and it has a little larger interior setting here, but ours would be a little smaller.
Aaron, are the signage on the rooftop and vertically up the side, are those the only two you're asking for? Like this particular example has Chase and its logo on that other piece. You're not asking for that, are you?
No, this is kind of how this one will look in the front. I think this Brian was maybe looking for before.
All right, just wanted to clarify.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to share with us?
That's all I have, unless you guys have other questions.
Okay.
Happy to try to answer them.
Do we have anybody, I assume there's no one here that from the general public that wants to comment for or against? I didn't. Okay, well then I think probably we can close the public part of the meeting and have some discussion amongst the committee members. Thoughts?
Overall, I like the design and the colors and the contemporary design. My concern is primarily with the rooftop signage. I don't want to set a precedent. If you start allowing it for an ATM, then any other accessory structure and beyond that, commercial buildings as well. As far as the signage on the top, on the side, I should say, the vertical signage, I'm not necessarily opposed to that. That doesn't bother me as much. Just my thoughts.
I agree with you on the rooftop.
I would comment that I agree about the rooftop, and I also think because it is a standalone, it's important to allow some signage on it other than ATM. I mean, otherwise, as I said earlier, how do you know what bank it even belongs to? So I would be inclined to say yes to the signage, but not the rooftop. Again, for the same reasons others have mentioned, the precedent. And I mean, if you allow it for an ATM, I don't know how you could deny it for much of anybody else.
Well, I would just hold out that I don't have a strong opinion one way or another on the rooftop, other than from the precedents that it may present for future. But this seems to me to be a fairly unique structure. And Cynthia, to your point that you made earlier, it's a little hard to identify who the bank is, and that provides a little elevation to at least present that. But I'm okay making the recommendation not to include the rooftop, but I don't think that it substantially detracts from what our process is and what our thoughts are.
Okay. Any other comments or questions for anybody? Can I get a proposed motion?
All right, I'll give you a motion. This is in regard to Symmes 99.25 Harper Station ATM Final Development Plan Modification to approve the ATM location and signage as requested, absent the rooftop illuminated octagon, which would not be approved. Does that work, Ryan?
Can I get a second?
I will second that.
Mr. Kessler,
Yes.
Mr. Reichman,
Yes.
Ms. Bucco,
Yes.
Mr. Etter.
Yes.
Okay, well, Aaron, you've got signage, just not all of it.
Oh, thank you. And I don't have a screaming toddler this month, so two good things.
Congratulations.
So,
Okay.
so we'll need some revised plans, basically the ones you have that don't show the rooftop.
Okay. Yep.
And then
I
you
can get those over.
Yep. Perfect.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks.
So I guess at this point, we'll move on to old business. Jana?
We have none.
Okay. New business?
Have a meeting next month.
We do. There's a zone change on the agenda.
Is that the McCluskey?
It didn't say McCluskey anywhere on their application. It's a car dealership.
What,
Is it?
go ahead, Cynthia.
I didn't think that was going to be coming through quite this quickly.
So they've already had their initial meeting that was required, and they are going to be on the June Planning Commission meeting and on the June Zoning Commission meeting. So yes,
Okay.
they met the deadline for June.
And which one do they go through first?
Regional Planning Commission, June 3rd, I think.
Okay.
And then here on the 16th. Is that right, Jana?
Yes, the 16th.
16th, right?
We have to decide if we're going to meet in person at Safety Center or Zoom.
Let's see, the last I heard, and I'm not sure if this has been rescinded by the removal of all the coronavirus restrictions on June 2nd. The last I heard was July 1st was the date that the temporary law expired for allowing remote meetings like this.
That's true, but the trustees have moved to the Safety Center, so I was just giving you guys the option.
I wouldn't be opposed to meeting in person starting in June. You're saying starting in July, we have to, Brian?
Yes.
Okay. How does everybody else feel about it?
I'm happy either way. I'm happy to meet in person.
Yeah.
Zoom is convenient, but I'm happy to meet in person.
Yeah. Zoom's very convenient if I can get on, but yeah.
Well, you have, given how much Todd travels, he can be here via Zoom, and obviously if he's out of town, he can't be here. So, but that
I will
said,
make a,
what?
go ahead.
I was gonna say, based on earlier this year, I think George would probably vote to meet in person. He seemed to be chomping at the bit to do that earlier this year. If everybody's okay with it, I don't have a problem with it.
So you want
I'm
to meet
okay
at
with
the
it.
Symmes Safety Center?
I think so.
Sure.
And that, Jana, they're moving all the meetings over there from the administration building
Yes,
in the
because
basement.
we're going to have this building set up for the auditors coming in.
Got it.
In June, so until the auditors go out, the trustees are meeting at the Symmes Safety Center over there on Weekly Lane.
So it's not due to more space and COVID or anything. It's due to the fact that,
Well, it was in the beginning, but now with the auditors coming in June, if you guys want to do a in-person meeting, we're going to have to go to the Symmes Safety Center, or you guys can go back to Zoom in June.
well, I think we are, I mean, the safety center isn't that far from the administrative building. based on the fact that we'd meet at the safety center, does anybody want to change their mind about meeting in person?
I'm still in favor.
No. Still in favor.
Okay.
I think we're still good.
Okay.
Can't walk there anymore.
Brian, I have a question for you about zone changes. What is the standard to approve or deny or make a recommendation?
So we're speaking generically about zone changes and not any specific zone change,
Correct.
just to make that clear for the record. The standards for whether you do or don't approve a zone change, and it has to be based on something, other than you just don't like the use. That's not, a basis for denying a zone change. You can't say that the use that they're proposing specifically is not something you like, but you would like something else that's in that same category. So you have to treat all retail establishments the same. There's a uniformity clause. You can't, basically say, well, in our retail zone, I'm in favor of everything except fast food restaurants. We don't like fast food restaurants, but everything else is good. If you weren't proposing a fast food restaurant, I'd be in favor of your zone change. But because you are, I'm going to vote against it. That's illegal. You look at the comprehensive land use plan that Symmes Township has adopted to see if the zone fits with that plan. By then, you'll have a recommendation of what the Regional Planning Commission thinks about that comprehensive plan consistency, part of the zone change. And then there are some standards in the zoning code. If you have a copy of it under the amendments tab, there are some kind of overall guidelines for zone changes that would probably be good to look at before the meeting. Generally, you have to have a concrete reason for opposing it. Impact on neighborhood, on the neighbors is one that we've seen a lot. Traffic is not a real zoning concern. In fact, I've heard people tell me it can't be used as the sole basis to deny a zone change. The idea with traffic is that they're going to comply with the county engineers and ODOT standards for traffic mitigation. If they're going to have an impact on Montgomery Road, they're going to have to add turn lanes or additional signalized intersections or whatever else the county engineer feels like they're going to have to do to maintain an adequate level of service. So, that and things like stormwater. They're going to have to meet the stormwater guidelines of the county, and the county is going to ensure that those are met. So, to say something generic like, well, we think it's going to be too much traffic and the stormwater is a concern because it might overflow. Those are difficult reasons for denial of a zone change.
But like light pollution or noise from the usage of it could be.
And that's getting closer. Yes, you're getting closer to a reasoning that has an impact, provided that the impact isn't on a bunch of empty other retail lots around it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, where I live, off of Union Cemetery, we get a lot of light pollution from restaurants and car dealerships and all sorts of things up on the Montgomery Road area, and especially in the winter, especially with low clouds, you can see shadows in my yard.
So I'll say that there are two types of zone changes. Not again to speak to any particular kind of one. There are zone changes that extend a commercial corridor into a residential area. They're expanding the retail zoning district into an area that's not currently zoned for retail. And so your impact on the residents there are the main concern. Do we want retail to expand this way? And are they going to mitigate things like light, noise, stuff that you were saying, Mr. Reichman? The other side of that are things that are already retail or already commercial. So you can't start with the basic undeveloped green pasture land idea that you can when you're dealing with somebody who's maybe tearing down a house and developing 3 acres for commercial. And most of that is green. And you have the idea that that's what it is currently. And if we allow this, it's going to be completely different. When you start with one that's already retail and they're rezoning the retail to a different kind of retail, you have to start with the fact that there may be retail there already that has, numerous lights and noise concerns and everything else. And so you're kind of banking your approval or denial on as it compares to what it is currently and the impacts that the current property has on the neighbors, and would this be significantly more? We would have to be some kind of case made for that. And that's usually the case when you're going from like a retail zone to an industrial zone or something like that, where you're increasing the intensity or the potential impact on the neighbors.
So this isn't an opportunity to ratchet it back.
Well, I mean, it at the very least, you understand that if you deny it, what's there currently can stay. You know, and especially when you're dealing with a use that fits in with the current zoning district, your denial might not actually stop the development.
Okay.
Hey, Brian.
What happens? What's the difference if it's a planned unit development, though?
So if it's a planned unit development, which any double letter zoning district is the planned unit development. So for instance, a double O or a double E district, both are planned unit developments. They're bound by the plan. If the plan shows 40 feet of setback, even though the setback is required to only be 20 feet, the new setback now is required to be 40 feet because that's what you showed on the plan. So there's no ability for you to modify it later to bring things closer to the property lines or add on to the building or build a bigger building. Whatever you show a 20,000 square foot building 40 feet from the property line, even though maybe you could have built a 100,000 square foot building 10 feet from the property line and still met zoning. If you go through the planned district and you show a smaller building with a bigger setback, now you're restricted to the smaller building and the bigger setback. And the only way to adjust that is to go through a public hearing back to this commission for final development plan modification.
So is that what this process will be? Final plan development modification, or?
Well, I don't know which process you're referring to, but in general, all of the zone changes in Symmes Township are double letter districts. So yes, I would assume any zone change that would come before you would probably be a double letter zone, potentially a double E planned residence zone.
Okay, well, some fun in June.
Brian?
Yeah.
Kim just informed me that she advertised next meeting for a Zoom meeting. If we change it, she's gonna have to put another legal ad in.
Zoom it is.
Zoom it
So we'll
is.
do Zoom then next month?
Zoom is fine.
Okay.
Okay,
That makes me happy.
that makes you happy? Good.
It does.
You look a lot more comfortable there than driving
A little bit.
Yeah.
One more month of happiness.
I could imagine that there would be a lot of interested parties next month. The room might be overcrowded if we met in person.
We didn't actually get a lot of people to show up at the initial meeting. I don't think there's a lot of people that live within 200 feet of that.
No, I
property.
didn't have any at the public hearing.
Huh.
I got to say that I think that as a township, we do a relatively poor job of of noticing these kinds of things. So.
Well, I'll say this just because I've heard that argument at the county level numerous times. I mean, there is a state law requirement for us to put an ad in the paper, which nobody reads anymore. And for us to send notices to only the adjoining property owners, just people right next door. And the township sends notices to everybody within 200 feet. Now, people outside of 200 feet, I know that the township puts it on their website. They advertise it on the internet. All of their upcoming meetings have it. Their upcoming events or whatever on the website have it. But we could draw the number anywhere. It costs money to send things in the mail, but I mean, you could draw it 300 feet and somebody would be 350 feet away and complain that they didn't get noticed. So we should have sent it to more people. We could send it to 500 feet. Somebody would be 550 feet away and complain that they didn't get noticed. Why didn't my neighbor get noticed, but I didn't? So I mean, we hear that a lot, but generally when it's an important issue in the township, the word gets out.
Yeah, well, I can speak again to my own personal experience where we have a Loveland Water District water tower that is literally at the front door of our subdivision, and nobody was noticed of that.
Public utilities are exempt from zoning.
Of course they are.
Right, but I'm saying like they actually are flat out exempt. They don't have to tell us. They don't notify the township. They don't notify the zoning staff, and they don't need any permits. None. They're the
Quasi
true
also.
definition of exempt.
Yeah. So it's
Wow.
quasi.
So is Duke, and that's how that substation went up
Yeah.
on Montgomery Road right there, across from
Yeah.
the administration building, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, well, while I don't know that I called for administrative matters, these certainly, I guess, fall into that category. Are there any other administrative matters?
None.
Okay, well, can I get a motion for adjournment then?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
And I'll second it.
Ms. Bucco,
Yes.
Mr. Etter,
Yes.
Mr. Kessler,
Yes.
Mr. Reichman.
Yes.
Okay,
See you in Zoom in a month.
All right.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
y'all.
Thank you, everybody.
bye.
All right, see everybody next month.
Bye.